Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 27th of September and we are going to deal with three very important topics which are in news. The first topic, that is Interpol, because Interpol has issued a red corner notice for an associated Khalistani personnel named as Karanveer Singh. Now, for us, it is important to know first of all what Interpol is. Second of all, what are the kinds of notices issued by Interpol? What is their meaning? Actually, Interpol issues 8 kind of notices, out of which 7 are color-coded notices. Like here, red corner notice or red notice has been issued for Mr. Karanveer Singh. And what are other kinds of notices we should know? And one of them is a UNSC related notice. So we will see in detail what types of notices these are in this particular section, that is Interpol. The second section is Financial Action Task Force, FATF. Now this FATF was also in news during the G20 and after that. It is an international organization. It was set up in the year 1989 by the G7 countries. Its job was to tackle money laundering, because money laundering involves cross-border transfer of or cross-border flow of funds. So it needed coordination of multiple countries, and FATF became that international body which could facilitate this kind of coordination. After the 9/11 attacks in 2001, FATF also brought under its ambit terror financing. So it is that task force which is dealing with the financial aspect of these terrorist organizations or people involved in money laundering, particularly organized criminal groups. They get involved in such kind of criminal activities. So it is FATF which is dealing with them. We look into the details, how FATF functions, what kind of lists does FATF issue. Actually, FATF issues a grey list and a black list. What does it mean if a country is listed in those lists? So we will see. And next is Osiris-Rex. Actually, this is a mission, or I would say this was a mission now, a successful one by NASA. Actually, it was a joint mission by NASA and University of Arizona. It was a sample bring back mission. From where? From an asteroid. So it was launched in 2016, went on that asteroid, landed over there, collected samples. After collecting samples, it has landed back on Earth. The scientists will be studying those samples. The scientists will come to know about the I would say soil composition of that particular asteroid, and it may also reveal other findings about the Earth or our solar system. Scientists are also hopeful that they can come to know about the origin of the universe from the findings if their findings go in the right direction. So this becomes important because UPSC is fond of asking questions from these kind of space programs which are of international importance. So we will be covering this over here in this particular topic. So these 3 topics for today. Let's get started with the first topic. Interpol. You might have heard about this particular term multiple times. It is basically an international organization, not under the United Nations. We should know this, that this is not under the ambit of United Nations. It was formed way back in 1923. Now what does Interpol do? Does it have the authority to go and arrest people directly from anywhere in the from any country? No, it does not have. Interpol is just a facilitating mechanism. It sits there in the center, coordinates with various agencies in every country and gives information to them, and that agency of that country acts on it. Like for example, in India, that particular agency is CBI. If Interpol wants to issue a notice, or if Interpol wants to give an information or wants to come and wants arrest of a particular person, like here in this case Karanveer's arrest has been ordered. It is kind of an international arrest warrant. So Interpol will give this information to that particular bureau or that particular organization of that country, and that organization will carry out the arrests. Interpol per se cannot go and directly arrest. This is what Interpol is. It is just a facilitating mechanism. It is headquartered in France, formed in 1923, and is responsible for overall maintenance of law and order. Because there is increased flow of people from one country to the other country, particularly after the advent of globalization. So involvement of these kind of organizations to maintain international law and order becomes important. And now in the present scenario, Interpol's presence has become important for India. Interpol has issued a red corner notice for an alleged Khalistani terrorist or involvement of this person, Mr. Karanveer Singh, as a Khalistani activist, and Interpol issued this red corner notice for his arrest. So wherever he is believed to be found in whichever country, Interpol will give information to that particular organization which is responsible or which is tied with Interpol, and it is the duty of that particular agency to arrest Mr. Karanveer Singh and hand him over to India, because he is most wanted here in India. So we can see in this that Singh Karanveer wanted by India. It has a red corner notice against Karanveer Singh. It has been issued. Now about Interpol, if you read about Interpol, it is just a facilitating international police cooperation against terrorism, trafficking and other crime. Now as I told you that when Interpol was there, it is tackling any kind of crime, whether it be terrorism or it be financial kind of crimes. So it is like this. Governance: all decisions regarding the activities of Interpol are made by the General Assembly, which is its supreme governing body, which meets annually, and it comprises of all the members over there. It is not a unit or part of the United Nations system. So UPSC at times can pose these kind of statements that it is part of the United Nations system, and then you'll come to know, or you'll be guessing that yes, it is part, it must be part because it is of significance. No, it is not part of it. It is an independent international organization which is headquartered in France, formed in 1923. Now, as I told you that Interpol is here. Now, let's suppose this is country A, or let's suppose this is India. Let's suppose this is USA. Then let's suppose this is Japan. Every country will be having a National Central Bureau, NCB. NCB can be any organization. Now for India, NCB is the CBI for Interpol. So Interpol will be in direct contact with the NCB. NCB is a generic term. NCB in India is basically CBI. Likewise, in USA it can be any other, in Japan it can be any of the investigating agencies or any law and order agency of these two countries respectively. It is like this. So it has a NCB in each member country, which is the central point of contact for both the General Secretariat and other NCBs around the world. So Interpol wants to connect, it will connect with the NCBs. If NCB from Japan wants to connect with India, the NCB of Japan will connect with NCB of India, that is CBI. So this is basically how flow of information is facilitated. Okay. So NCB for India is CBI. That is also again factual, which should be understood. About the notices, Interpol issues 8 types of notices, not CBI, it is Interpol which issues 8 types of notices. 7 of them are color coded, like a red notice, which we just saw, which has been issued against Karanveer Singh, and one of it is a UNSC backed notice, that is United Nations Security Council. We know about it because it is a principal organ. Now, when I talk about the red notice, it is to seek the location and arrest of a person wanted by a judicial jurisdiction or an international tribunal. Now, in this case, present scenario, Karanveer Singh was a wanted, I would say, person by India. So, India is a judicial jurisdiction who is wanting the arrest of a person. India has approached Interpol, Interpol agreed, and Interpol said yes, that person is actually harmful, or that person is a threat, that person is a crime. We'll issue the notice. At times, it refuses to issue also. Like last year, we requested Interpol to issue a red collar notice against Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. He was also in news recently, very recently. And then Interpol last year refused that we were not going to issue a red corner notice against Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. But this time, against Karanveer Singh, a red corner notice has been issued. Now, wanted by a judicial jurisdiction or an international tribunal with a view to his/her extradition. This has to be done. Now, what is this extradition? We need to understand this also. Now, let's suppose there is India, and let's suppose there is any other X country. The wanted criminal in India who has done crimes in India but has fled to this country. So, bilaterally, we can say to this country that, arrest that person is a criminal over here, and deport him back to India. Now, it is dependent upon this X country. If this X country and India have signed an extradition agreement, then it will be the responsibility of this X country to, arrest that person over there and deport him back to India. If this extradition treaty or if this extradition agreement is signed between India and this X country. But if an extradition agreement is not there, then that person cannot be arrested and deported over here, because that person has not committed any crime over there. That person has committed a crime over here in India. So, if an extradition, if in the absence of extradition agreement, the person has not to be sent. That is why you see criminals like, Dawood Ibrahim, who are there in Pakistan. We have not signed any extradition agreement with Pakistan, or for that matter, Vijay Mallya, who is, a criminal, a declared criminal over here in India. Courts have issued arrest warrants against him, but he's there in UK. So, we don't have any extradition agreement with UK also. So, he's there free. He cannot come. But if Interpol issues a red corner notice, then irrespective of the fact that you have an extradition agreement or not, that person has to be arrested and handed over to that judicial jurisdiction. That is the power of red notice. It is overshadowing, or it is above the extradition agreement. So, extradition has to be done. Okay. That is why it is written that, to seek location and arrest of a person wanted by a judicial jurisdiction or an international tribunal with a view to his/her extradition. Extradition means that person has to be deported back to that country where he is declared as a criminal. Then it is the closest instrument to an international arrest warrant. So, it is kind of an international arrest warrant, red notice, which has been issued. Now, wherever, whatever the location of Mr. Karanveer Singh is presently, the national, I would say, bureau of that particular country would have been given this notice that it is your duty to arrest and hand that person over to India. Now, if that country fails to do so, or if that country refuses to act upon the information or upon the notices of Interpol, then Interpol takes actions like, sanctions from the UNSC. These come because UNSC is also kind of an observer member over here in Interpol. So, these kind of punishments also can be given to those countries who do not comply with these notices. So, red notice we've seen. Now, we'll see what a blue notice is. To locate, identify or obtain information on a person of interest in a criminal investigation. This is basically just location or identification. Green notice, to warn about a person's criminal activities, that person can be dangerous, be aware about that, if that person is considered to be a possible threat to public safety. The yellow notice, to locate a missing person or to identify a person unable to identify himself or herself. This is basically for locating a missing person. Next, black notice. Black notice is basically to seek information on unidentified bodies. Orange notice, to warn of an event, a person, an object or a process representing an imminent threat and danger to the persons or property. Then next, purple notice, to provide information on modus operandi, procedures, objects, devices or hiding places used by the criminals. And finally, we have that UNSC special notice, Interpol UNSC special notice, to inform Interpol's members that an individual or an entity is subject to UN sanctions. So you have to be aware about that person or entity. That is Interpol UNSC special notice. Okay. So this was all about Interpol. We should understand that it does not have the power to arrest. It is just a facilitating mechanism which is actually in contact with the respective organizations which are known as the NCBs of that particular countries. Like NCB for India is CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation. Central Bureau of Investigation will do the arrests. It is just passing on the information, facilitating the functioning of those NCBs, and if there has to be coordination done between two NCBs, then also that can be done via Interpol. It is not a body under United Nations. Okay, so these are the basics about Interpol. Financial Action Task Force, FATF, we know it as. Financial Action Task Force, as the name suggests, is, I would say, for tackling financial crimes. Financial crimes can be money laundering, or I would say terror financing. And all these kind of crimes are involving cross-border flow of funds. Means more than one country is involved in that. FATF in 1989, it was formed by the G7 countries, and when it was formed, its main target was to combat money laundering. Money laundering is a process in which you make it appear like you have earned dirty money by doing some illegal activities, let's suppose selling drugs and all, but you make that dirty money look like it is earned through clean sources, or it is earned through legitimate or legal sources. That is money laundering, in which you conceal the source of earning of that money and make it look like that it has come from a legitimate or legal source. So when G7 countries in 1989 formed FATF, its one and only task was to tackle money laundering in the world. And after the 9/11 attacks, there was another task given to FATF, that was terror financing. So presently FATF is an international organization which is basically for tackling or for basically passing on information about money laundering on one side and terror financing on the other side. FATF issues multiple lists, like FATF issues a grey list and a black list. In grey list are those countries which are suspected of doing money laundering or terror financing. It is not proven. It is kind of a warning given to them that we have suspect over this. These kind of activities are happening in your country, and the government is involved in that. Like last year, Pakistan was issued, or Pakistan was there in the grey list, but in October last year, it was removed from the grey list. Then the second is blacklist, in which it is proven that illicit activities are happening in that country and the government is involved. So presently North Korea, Iran are there in the blacklist. So these are the two lists. What happens when a country is there in the grey list, we'll see. And let's get started with this. Financial Action Task Force, FATF, is an intergovernmental body that sets international standards seeking to prevent international financial crimes that aid terrorism. Set up in July 1989, at a G7 summit in Paris, initially to examine and develop measures to combat money laundering. Money laundering, I already explained, it is a process by which you conceal the source of your money, means your money is earned through some illegal activities, but you make it look like that this money is coming from some legal sources. That is money laundering. You've concealed that source, because this concealing of this source actually involves multiple countries. That flow of money from one country to the other country will happen, then to the next country, then to the next country. This is how you'll be able to conceal it. This is one most common way of concealing it, by doing multiple bookkeeping tricks or transferring money from one bank account to the other bank account, and these bank accounts are located on foreign shores. So these G7 countries, the most advanced economies of that time and now also, were facing this issue of money laundering a lot, and that is why they formed this FATF to tackle that. After the 9/11 attacks, FATF in October 2001 expanded its mandate to incorporate efforts to combat terrorist financing. The FATF has developed the FATF recommendations or FATF standards, which ensure a coordinated global response to prevent organized crime, corruption and terrorism. It issues grey list and the blacklists. Two kind of lists are issued by it. Now, what is a grey list? Countries that are considered safe haven for supporting terror funding and money laundering are put in the FATF grey list. That are considered, not proven. These are countries under increased monitoring. Kind of a warning is issued to them. Okay. Now, their inclusion serves as a warning to the countries that it may enter the blacklist also if they are in the grey list. Presently, around 23 countries remain under the watch. Philippines, Syria, Yemen, UAE, Uganda, Morocco, Jamaica, Cambodia, Burkina Faso, South Sudan, tax havens of Barbados, Cayman Islands and Panama. Pakistan was here, now it is removed last year in October 2022. What is blacklist? Blacklist are basically countries where it is proven that some illicit activity is happening and the government is also involved in that. So these are called as non-cooperative countries or territories, NCCTs. They are put in the blacklist. These countries support terror funding and money laundering. Currently, Iran and North Korea are under blacklist countries. So this is clear about them, that they are blacklisted. It has been proven. Now you need to understand that what are the consequences of being placed in the grey list. Now IMF and World Bank, two financial institutions under the aegis of United Nations, are there. They actually serve as observers, and a grey listed country faces complications in assessing international lending instruments. It is not that World Bank and IMF will clearly refuse to give lending because one is there in the grey list. Remember, being in the grey list, it has not been proven that terror financing or money laundering is being done. It is suspected. But if you are there in the grey list, then World Bank and IMF can make it difficult for you. It is not it does not mean that it can definitely not lend. It can refuse to lend you money, or it can lend you with its own terms and conditions. Like Pakistan is facing in a crisis presently, and it was there in the grey list also. So IMF was very much cautious of releasing funds to Pakistan, because IMF believed that what if this fund is diverted for terror financing? So it was very much cautious in disbursing those funds to Pakistan. So this listing in the grey list or being mentioned in the grey list simply means that. Second is, it signals to the global financial and banking systems about increased risk in transactions with the country in question. So there are increased risks in transaction. So whenever a country is there in the grey list, all other countries also feel the same, that there are risks involved over there. Now, grey listing means FATF has placed a country under increased monitoring to check its progress on measures against money laundering and terrorism financing. So it is under increased monitoring. It is like this. Now, Osiris-Rex. This was a mission launched in 2016 by NASA and University of Arizona. The mission was a sample bring back mission. From where? From an asteroid. Those asteroids which are near to the Earth. Those asteroids which are substantially large in diameter. Those asteroids where it can easily go, land, collect and take off from there and come back to Earth. So a mission launched in 2016 now has come back to the Earth. It has collected the samples from that particular asteroid, and this is the capsule which has brought those samples back from that asteroid. The scientists will be studying and examining these samples. They will not only get to know about the, I would say, topography of that particular asteroid, but yes, they can get information about the entire universe and the solar system as well. They can get more, I would say, information about the mineral resources present in that asteroid. Because if we can bring back samples, definitely we can bring back minerals from there as well. So this becomes, I would say, a great achievement not only for NASA, but for the entire world. And if findings, they are out, and let's suppose a finding is there which definitely is going to impact humanity in a positive way, then why not? Let's suppose we find a mineral over there which is very much, I would say, effective in tackling global warming or climate change over here by the usage of that particular mineral. We do that. Then that is going to be a win-win situation for everyone. So let us understand what is Osiris-Rex. NASA space capsule carrying the largest soil sample ever scooped up from the surface of an asteroid. And that asteroid is named as Bennu, and it streaked through the Earth's atmosphere, landed in, I would say, the Utah Desert. Spacecraft involved is Osiris-Rex. That is why the name of this mission is Osiris-Rex. Mission duration 6 years, 2016 till now. It was launched in 2016, and involved agencies is NASA and University of Arizona. Now what will the mission do? Collect a sample from a near Earth asteroid. It is actually what it has done. Bennu, the name of that asteroid, and return to Earth with a sample for study. Now every 6 years, Bennu comes near the Earth, and it is somewhere around 450,000 kilometers from the Earth, and its orbit allows safe landing and takeoff of any spacecraft. That is why this asteroid was chosen. That becomes a reason also. Then help scientists better determine the orbit of the asteroid. This will also be done. Acquire knowledge about the asteroid's composition, which could give clues about how planets formed and how life began. This can also be found out, how life began on Earth. I don't know about how scientists will go about it, but whatever the findings will be of the scientists, and it will be there in news, definitely we will be covering it. But yes, this can be found out by the scientific examination of this particular asteroids. Now let us look into it. Scientific objectives: collect a sample and return to Earth, map the asteroid, because when this actually went there, Osiris-Rex, then it landed over there. For 6 years, it was not only collecting the samples, but yes, it was also mapping that asteroid. And it was actually a Canadian Space Agency's instrument which was responsible for doing the mapping. Then Canadian contribution in Osiris-Rex, the laser altimeter OLA is the Canadian contribution to the spacecraft. OLA will make a 3D map of Bennu and sleuth out the best site for sample. The size of I would say this asteroid is 492 meters. This was purposely chosen because asteroids of smaller size, that is 200 meters or less, they spin very fast and it becomes very difficult to land on them. That is why this big size was chosen. Now why asteroid Bennu? Because it is in proximity to the Earth Every 6 years it comes in proximity of the Earth. It becomes easy to land there, then take off from there. Then if we talk about the composition, scientists will be able to analyze the asteroid's chemistry and mineralogy to learn more about the mineral compositions over there, about the surface over there. This is all going to happen with the research or with the findings of that, I would say, samples which have been brought back. And finally, if I talk about the timeline, 2016 was the launch, 2018 this Osiris-Rex reached there, till 2030 or in 2020 it started, collecting the samples, and now 2023 it is back to Earth with the samples collected. So this actually is a factual news, nothing conceptual in it, but let's see the findings of this. When the findings will be out, then some conceptual understanding, if it has to be done, we'll be definitely covering that. But UPSC is fond of asking questions that recently, a term Bennu was in news. What does it refer to? Or recently a term Osiris-Rex was in news. What does it refer to? Or it can also ask this, which of the following statements are true about the asteroids? Actually, they can give this statement that asteroids which are less than 200 meters in diameter, they spin very quickly as compared to the larger asteroids. Yes, this is true. So all these should also be known. And you might be thinking, sir, what are asteroids? I did not cover that. I'll do the basics of that also. Like, asteroids are celestial bodies, heavenly bodies, which are largely found between Mars and Jupiter. Largely over there, but yes, between Earth and Mars also there are some asteroids which are found. Those are uninhabitable heavenly bodies, just like stones, in the space, but they can be of significance. We can come to know about the origin of life, origin of the solar system from there. So this is all about asteroids and this Osiris-Rex. And that is it from today's session as well. I will be meeting tomorrow with some more important and useful information. I will be covering the topics which are in news. And till then, you guys keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising. Jai Hind. Namaste.